Hey everybody, what is going on? Heatsoul here with another Master Duel video for you all. So today we're going to be covering Mathmech once again. I'm still using my first initial build that I have of the deck here, although I haven't taken a look at the comments that have been coming in and the suggestions that have been coming in on the build as well. So thank you all very much. I am still fairly new to Mathmech, so just kind of like looking at builds, looking at different ways of playing the deck, and kind of assessing it from there. One thing I've noticed in particular, and a lot of people saying, and of course I have thought about this as well, is why aren't you playing Appaloosa in the extra deck? The main reason is that I just didn't have space in this initial extra deck, and I did want to prioritize the Heatsoul. The way that I see it, because I've seen people say like, oh, 2300 draw card isn't really that great. I kind of don't think 1600 Appaloosa is that great to end on. I know you can end on 2400, right? Like you can do Cyberse IP and Linguriboh pretty consistently, but I don't know. I just like, is 2400 even Appaloosa like so much better than 2300 Heatsoul? I really like the extra draw. I really like, especially because, you know, obviously in this build, we've kind of built our deck with more disruption in order to lead into drawing something like Ash or C or Valor or Imperm or Ghost Belle, whatever, with the Heatsoul there. So, well, Imperm, I guess to be fair, you can't use if Heatsoul is in play, but all the same. I don't know, I've definitely been considering it, and I will likely try to fit an Appaloosa in my extra deck in the long term. I don't know, I'm honestly kind of debating taking out the Geomathmech Final Sigma here, because I don't really ever go for it. I know there's like an OTK you can do. I know like it involves multiplication, but you know, I usually just go for the update jammer access code line. And as I was ranking up to, oh, and that was the other thing too, as I'm sure I'll probably put in the title or something, I did actually hit Diamond 1 while I was just fooling around with this deck. I've actually been playing with this deck a lot lately, just to mostly not even test the build or like, well, it is also to get more familiar with how it plays too, but I'm kind of just trying to figure out like, what tier do I think this deck is? And I actually still am not really 100% sure. I think it's above Rogue right now. I'm confident enough to say that it's above Rogue tier, and my gut really wants me to put it in tier 2. I don't have any, you know, hard data to back that up with. That's more of just like where I feel the power level of this deck at is relative to the rest of the current meta. I think Mathmech is a tier 2 deck. It could be tier 1, it could be tier 3. Tier 1 is like, it's really got Sword Soul that it's competing against mostly, and I think what Sword Soul has over this deck is like a slight consistency edge and mostly like resilience, like just the sheer, like, I don't know, Mathmech is a pretty resilient deck too though, now that I say that out loud. Like, I do find myself being able to like play through stuff pretty easily most of the time. Like, you know, if your opponent stops them out of your circular play, as long as you've got like, you know, usually one or two other, usually only one other Mathmech monster in hand. I guess it really depends on where you get stopped and how you get stopped. That really does actually matter with this deck a lot when you're comboing, so in terms of trying to figure out like how to further extend. But regardless, I personally really like the Heatsoul build. It served me well getting up to Diamond 1 here. But should I ever finish that thought? Like, yeah, that's what I was going to say, as I put in the titles. I did hit Diamond 1 while fooling around with this deck. And honestly, this is such like a first world problem. I kind of hate being in Diamond 1 because people just concede so quickly. It makes it so hard to get games for like videos. I'm like reminded why the last couple of months I've just kind of been hanging out in Diamond, not really bothering to reach Diamond 1, but whatever. So yeah, definitely let me know where you think Mathmech stands as a deck. Like in the comments below, like, do you think it's tier 1, 2, 3, or Rogue? I think it's definitely above Rogue. I think personally it's probably tier 2, but I could really see, I don't know, I could see arguments for almost any case, honestly. So, let's see, do I have anything else I want to say about the deck? I don't think I really do. Let's just go ahead and break it down card by card, and we'll take a look at some gameplay. So in this current build, we're playing 2 Effect Valor, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 2 Mathmech Sigma, 2 Mathmech Addition, 2 Mathmech Subtraction, 1 Mathmech Multiplication, 3 Mathmech Diameter, 3 Mathmech Circular, 3 Parallel Exceed, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Cynet Mining, 1 Mathmech Equation, 2 Small World, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Mathmech Superfactorial. Extra deck will be 1 Geomathmech Final Sigma, two Mathmech Laplacian, two Mathmech Alembertain, right? That's how you say it, something like that. I did see those comments as well. Anyway, one Link Disciple, one Link Devotee, one Linguriboh, one Cyberse Wicckid, one Update Jammer, one IP Masquerena, one Splash Mage, one Transcode Talker, one Decode Talker Heatsoul, and then finally one Accesscoe Talker. And that's going to round out the list there. Now let's take a look at some gameplay. Alrighty, so our first duel here is going to be against Runic, and this was actually... I think this was the second to last game before I ranked up. I don't think this was my final boss, but it was one of the... It was in the boss gauntlet. For those who don't know what I mean when I say that, I like to refer to the last person you fight before you reach Diamond 1 as your final boss, and then everyone you fight on the way from Diamond 2 to Diamond 1 as your boss gauntlet, so... I'm just going to start off with a pretty typical circular play. I've got the subtraction and the parallel exceed, so I should have, if my opponent doesn't have any disruption, I shouldn't have too many issues ripping cards in their hand starting on turn 1 here. Oh, a lot of people did point out, and I do actually agree with this, both in the deck profile and the combo guide, that on turn 1, it is right to actually use Diameter as a material when possible in order to be able to negate like imperms and stuff from your opponent on turn 1. So yes, that is definitely very true. I did say at certain points during the combo guide that it doesn't super matter what you use. It does kind of matter in that regard. Actually, more than kind of, it does definitely matter. Alright, so here's the Splash Mage, gonna bring back the Sigma, and then I can slam down the Subtraction. Like, yeah, there, I probably should have just brought back the Diameter instead of the Sigma there, but... You know, in this situation, like, if my opponent had a response, they were gonna play it already, so... It doesn't, like, super duper matter, but it does still matter. It can still matter, I should say. Excuse me. Alright, so yeah, definitely gonna start by, like I said, ripping cards from our opponent's hand. I like to do this on turn 1 whenever possible. There are a couple of different lines you can do, like if you open an extender in addition to your circular, but I think that more often than not, you just want to be ripping a card from your opponent's hand. So, taking that rivalry out, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Runic here, but, you know, to be fair, it could be a number of other stun decks, but nope, it's Runic, so... So when they activated Tip right at the beginning, and I had the Ash Blossom in hand, I don't know. The reason that I ashed the Tip was because I had the Superfactorial, so I'm like, okay, even if they end up dropping a Fountain, I can just destroy it with the Laplacian once I summon it off of the Superfactorial. But it's actually kind of interesting. I thought about this when I was playing this game. If your opponent Runic tips, and that's the first thing they do, and you have Ash Blossom, should you Ash or should you wait? I actually don't know that I know the answer to this question. I ashed it again in this scenario because even if they've got the Fountain, I can hit it with the Laplacian off of the Superfactorial, but definitely let me know what you think. I don't know, I think I probably still would in most cases ash the Tip, because they're just going to add the Fountain, right? And the way I see it, like, they're just going to add the Fountain, and if they negate, and they still have, like, a way to get Hugin, then at least you force them to use another Runic spell in a discard, so... I think even if I didn't have an answer to Fountain already set up here, I would probably still just Ash Blossom this Runic Tip. Yeah, so they got 4 cards. I really should have, once they set like the second or third card, switched my toggle to on, and then flipped up Laplacian so that way I could hit a back row and a card from hand. I could have actually hit 2 of these instead of just the 1 is what I'm getting at, so... That was a fairly minor misplay on my part. I don't think that's one that necessarily, like, a whole lot of people would, Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there for a second. I don't think that, like, necessarily everybody would think to do that, but I think it's probably still right to try to, you know... Flipping that toggle to on, I don't like having it set to on the entire time. That's just cumbersome, but... Knowing when you should and shouldn't do it is definitely a skill in its own right, for sure. So the opponent's only got 2 live back row, but the problem is, if even one of them is a Floodgate, I really don't have a hand that can play through that right now. So I do have to be a bit mindful in that regard. And sure enough, there can only be one that does end up coming down. So I do at least have the Heatsoul in play, so that is a very like solid 1 monster to sit on here. And actually here, I probably should have set, and I think I do that the next turn, I should have set one of these monsters, like the Sigma, probably. Even if I can't summon it under there can only be one, yeah, I definitely still want to make sure that I've got it, like, I've got stuff in play. It's nice to have stuff in play for when the Floodgate does leave the board. I know it can feel really hopeless to play into a Floodgate, but you should still play assuming that, like, you know, it's going to leave the board at some point, that you're going to have some kind of an out. Oh yeah, I should have searched. I should have tried to search something else here. I'm admittedly still trying to get a little used to Small World, but I ended up just grabbing another Veiler. Even if I already have a Veiler, there actually, I think, is like some amount of merit to showing them that I'm getting a Veiler too, because it makes them less inclined to want to try to play like into a Hugin to grab their fountain here. So, you know, one of the things that I like to suggest when you're playing under a Floodgate, like there can only be one, is like try to limit your opponent's resources. Because here's the thing, and this is what I said when Eldritch was like the big scary Floodgate deck everyone hated playing against. I said this about Eldritch, and I'm going to say this about Runic too. About any Floodgate deck in particular. If they've got you locked down under a Floodgate, then your game plan should be to stop them from doing their stuff as well, because if they can't get their stuff online, then the Floodgate by itself doesn't mean anything. It's not going to win them the game single-handedly. With Eldritch, I would always say, you know, they can't win the game without the Golden Lord. They can flip up Skill Drain, Rivalry goes, and there can only be one. But if they don't have a Golden Lord in play, they're going to be losing that game. And the similar thing is happening with Runic here as well. Yeah, they've got the Floodgate up, and yeah, it's severely limiting what I can do. Is it annoying? Sure. But, you know, as long as I keep my head in the game and focus on stopping my opponent from doing anything too scary, with their Runic stuff, then they're not going to be able to really do anything to compensate for the fact, or to, you know, take advantage of the fact, rather, that I can't do anything under their Floodgate. And, you know, that ashing their Runic tip very much was a part of that. So was, you know, firing off that Mathmech Superfactorial. And again, I really should have done it to hit both a card in their hand and a back row, but, you know, what can you do? Yeah, here I'm going to set this Maxx in particular, because I'm looking to potentially, it could potentially be important to ending this duel. It really could. It doesn't seem like it, but, you know, if my opponent removes my Heatsoul, for example, I can flip up Sigma and Maxx to draw a couple, or not to draw a couple of cards, to have lethal, because my opponent's at 1100. I might have to beat my opponent down over multiple turns with just this, like, Maxx. That could end up being the case. Oh yeah, opponent's playing Curse Seal as well. I don't understand this. I don't know why are you playing an anti-Runic card in Runic? It makes absolutely zero sense to me, but okay. Oh yeah, so here, yeah, the opponent did have a call by ultimately for this Chain Link here. But I also had the Imperm to stop them, so. And that is, like, naturally going to happen as a result of drawing so many cards over the course. Because, see, that's the other thing, too, right? Like, Floodgate decks want the game to go on longer. So, like, you know, I'll see some people say, like, oh, you're playing Harpy's Feather Duster, but are you really counting on opening a one-of to stop Floodgate decks? No, I'm not counting on opening it, not at all. But because the games tend to drag out like this, like, you have so many more opportunities to, like, draw your one-of out. I don't think we're actually even playing Feather Duster in this deck now that I think about it, but it's okay. We're not going to ultimately need it here. Basically, my plan right now, and another reason I set Maxx is to flip this up. If my opponent summons Hugin, I can flip up Maxx, battle over it, and then smack him directly with Heatsoul, so. The opponent got the card at Demise draw, and they actually, looks like they did even draw the Fountain, they just didn't have a spell to draw with it, so. And I don't know, again, you could, I can see people saying like, oh, like, yeah, you won against Runic here, but they just got unlucky that they didn't set up the Fountain, but I think that really does, like, dismiss a lot of the, like, a lot of the back and forth that ended up happening here, particularly on my end, just trying to make sure, again, they didn't have any action, well, I didn't have any action going on. Here they do get to tip for Fountain, but it's too late at this point. Like, even if they had gotten to draw 3 during this turn, it wouldn't have been, I don't think, super likely to have mattered. I guess I only had 11 cards left in deck, so it could have, but yep. As soon as I flip up the Maxx, they know it's over. I'm just going to smack the Hugin with the Maxx and then battle directly with Heatsoul. So, yeah, I really wanted to show this game against Runic because, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people not I feel like, I know from playing Runic, a lot of people concede the second they see a Runic card. I think even more people concede the second a Floodgate is flipped and they don't really have many plays, but patience and perseverance are so key. This matchup is not unwinnable. You just have to, like, try. I don't know. So that's all for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Alright, so this time around, we're going to be playing against Branded Despia. And it looked like a pretty standard variant. Wasn't even running Cosmic Cyclones, so let's see what we got here. Right, we're going to go first. We did open Circular and a bunch of extenders, so I can't complain about that. We've also got the Ghost Spell here, too, which is nice. So if our opponent has something in response to the Superfactorial, like a call by, we can just Ghost Spell it. Yeah, so as always as ever, if possible, I'm going to start trying to tear cards out of my opponent's hand. Because here's the other thing too, right? There are alternative lines you can do, like if you have Circular plus an extender, other than using Laplacian to, like, you know, discard on turn 1, but they're all going to result in more or less the same end board anyway. It's only like slight variance, and I don't think any like benefit of like not going for the combo outweighs the benefit of, or not going for the turn 1 discard outweighs the turn 1 discard. I think it's the best play you can do on turn 1, if possible with this deck. If possible. But again, all you have to do is open Circular and Extender, so it's typically not too difficult. The nice thing too is, I mean, it is relatively late into the combo, so you don't play typically too differently at all, but having that information, like, don't underestimate having that information on turn 1 of, like, knowing what your opponent's going to play. Here they actually had the Despia Tragedy, which is a bit unlucky for me, but because I used Diameter to make this Laplacian, I can just negate it, so it's fine that we discard it. It doesn't ultimately end up mattering, but, like, now I know they're playing Branded Despia, and that might not seem like it matters a whole lot, but it definitely can, especially when, you know, knowing when to time your, like, Superfactorial, for example. Like, if you tear, like that last game where I tore a Rivalry out of their hand turn 1, I'm like, okay, if it's Runic, now I know to look for a, like, to try to hit back rows with my Superfactorial, instead of just, like, hitting a monster and a card in hand and just being satisfied with that, because depending on the matchup does actually affect the timing of when I want to activate Superfactorial. Alright, so opponent's going to start off with the Branded Fusion. I'm just going to try to go for a Heatsoul here, just to see if I can get maybe some kind of, you know, hand trap or something. Obviously, I can't draw Ash Blossom and still use it against the Branded Fusion here, but that's the thing about IP Masquerena, is, like, you can only use it during the main phase, so you kind of have to wait. Just because of the way priority works, you don't have a chance to activate IP Masquerena during your opponent's main phase before your opponent has a chance to use a card during their main phase. Your opponent's always going to have, like, the first opportunity to activate an effect during the beginning of the main phase there, so. But, you know, even though this Branded Fusion resolved, it's really not that big of a deal. I don't really know why my opponent used Branded Opening. I guess maybe they just wanted to add, well, they're probably just looking for the Branded in red here. Well, no, they have the Branded in red. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but I got the Ghost Belle, so I wasn't worried about this hour potentially adding Branded in red at all. And then I can just save the Imperm for the Albion here, because I figured my opponent went for Albion and not Lubellion because they were trying to, like, OTK. So definitely would like to stop that from happening. And yeah, it makes sense here. Yeah, it looks like they were just trying to OTK. Like, you know, fusing with the Branded in red, and then I imagine using some combination of Patchwork and Despia, the theater of the Branded after that. So now that I know they've added that, I'm going to wait for them to play that before I activate the Superfactorial, because yeah, it really would have depended on when they would have activated it, but I should have still been able, like, if they had used Polymerization, then I might not have been able to hit a card in hand, but even if that was the case, like, I think that's fine. I was more really concerned about getting the Omni to get online before, like, a Polymerization came down, and then also moving the Despia Theater, so technically my opponent should have played that Poly first. That would have been a lot worse for me if they had, but I don't fault them for, like, not doing that here, honestly. I will definitely stop them from getting this theater back. Oh, that one card, I always want to say it that way. I do that in real life too whenever I'm by like a playhouse. Because like there's a movie theater, but if it's a playhouse, it's a theater. So, they do actually still have the Albaz to go for the Mirror Jade. Even after all that, they did still have it, so that is a little annoying, but I mean, looking at my hand, I've got, you know, Diameter plus 2 extenders, so, like, it's cool. I'm not worried about it. I do have to be mindful of the branded in red, though, because my opponent can still Guardian Chimera, potentially, and pop multiple cards with it as well. They don't have access to ad libitum, so they can't Guardian Chimera and have a live Mirror Jade afterward, but they do definitely still have the ability to drop that Guardian Chimera. So I'm mainly going to try to focus on getting this access code OTK with the update jammer. Looks like they're not going for Guardian Chimera, though. They're actually going for Despia and Kratos, which actually makes a lot of sense. It's a very annoying effect, both the attack drop and the summoning of Albaz upon destruction. I'm going to have to be very mindful of both. So I'm going to make this Alembertain, and I'm going to want to keep it in play because it's got the Diameter Omni-Negate effect on it. So I don't want to use this as a material. Okay, yeah, here's the update jammer, and then, what do I have, like a Sigma to bring back still? Oh no, that's right, I'm going to go for Transcode Talker, and then use Transcode to bring back the update jammer. Here's the thing, though. When I was looking at my opponent's graveyard and Banish, I noticed that they actually have, there's an Albaz in grave, and I think they have one Banish too, is that right? Yeah. So I know most braided Despia decks typically only play 2 Fallen of Albaz. Some do play 3, but I decided to kind of hedge a bit here. And, yeah, I'll use the Alembertain effect to negate the attack drop. And I'm going to play assuming they don't have a third Albaz in their deck. Now, if they do have a third Albaz in their deck, what I should have done here is I should have popped Kratos first, before popping Mirror Jade. That was actually a misplay on my part, because if they have an Albaz left in their deck, and they summon it off of Kratos, while Mirror Jade is still in play, then they won't be able to go into another Mirror Jade. They could still go into like a Titaniclad, but yeah, that was definitely a misplay on my part. But they actually don't have another Mirror Jade or another Albaz here. They don't have a third one, which I didn't think they did. Again, most people don't play the third one, and I was kind of banking on that fact. But I still could have played better and played around them if they had a third one. So I should have done that. But all the same, they don't have it, so I can just pop all their stuff with the access code. Alembertain can negate Kratos' attack drop effect via Diameter, and then we can just swing for lethal there. So there is that game. Winning a nice one against Branded Despia. Let's go ahead and move on to the next duel. Alright, this time we're going to go up against Hero, so, yeah. Don't like taking down my favorite deck, but doesn't mean I won't. Looks like we're going to be taking the second turn this time. And we opened 3 Diameter. I remember this game now, because I opened this hand and I was like, what am I even supposed to do here? I have 3 Diameter in my hand. But fortunately, not only did my opponent set 2 and pass, but I just ripped Circular off the top of my deck, so don't worry. We don't have to think too hard. We're just the luckiest player in the world, that's all. Now, my opponent is going to have an Imperm for this Circular. That's totally fine. I've already got the Diameter in hand, so I should be able to pull off an OTK here pretty easily. Oh, that's right. You know, here I actually established a Linguriboh first because I was expecting, you know, maybe this back row is another Imperm, and maybe I can just set this to try to play around that. But no, it's a Droplet. Droplet on the Diameter, but it's actually fine. With everything I have in play, this is enough to go for the update jammer OTK. This is why I kind of say I'm thinking of taking a Final Sigma out of the deck. Like, I actually think I technically need Nabla to have the combo for the Final Sigma OTK, which I actually don't know off the top of my head. I just figured, you know, it probably involves, because I know Sigma does double battle damage in the extra monster zone, so I imagine it involves doubling its attack with multiplication, and then it does 12,000 damage in one attack. But I don't know, it's like, Update Jammer access code is so easy to go into, like, and it rarely ever fails. I'm just like, I don't really feel the need to have like another OTK option in this deck. Like, between the first turn and like superfactorialing your opponent, or if you go second, just going for update jammer access code, I just feel like, I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong, to be fair. Like I said, I don't know the final Sigma OTK super well, but why wouldn't you just update jammer then? That's kind of my thought process. So, yeah, that game was actually a little bit uneventful, but I don't know. I opened a 3 diameter and I was like, oh, this is gonna be really interesting and difficult to play out of, and then I just top deck circular. It's like, oh, never mind. So I got one more game to look at. Let's just go and jump straight into it. And our final duel for this video is gonna be against Labyrinth. So let's see how we fare against them. I love it. I love it when my opponent is using the same board with this board in particular, because I really like this table and that the stuff floats around it. I like this board in general. This is probably my favorite board. Alright, so I'm going to start off with an Ariana. I'm definitely just going to go ahead and Ash Blossom that. I do not want them searching their welcome Labyrinth. Now this back row with the Labyrinth does make me a bit anxious they opened it anyway, but we'll see. Honestly, between Circular, Parallel Exceed, and Mathmech Equation, I feel like, yeah, even under a welcome Labyrinth, which they do end up having, I should probably be able to find lethal anyway. Like, I'm just trying to think. I guess it really does depend on what they destroy in my hand, to be totally fair. Really? I don't know. Actually, even if they hit Parallel Exceed, I'm trying to think. I should still be able to have it, right? Because I can equation back the Circular. Well, that wouldn't be an update jammer OTK. I think that would be an access code, but not... No, wait, never mind. I still had a normal summon. So yeah, even if they had ripped Parallel Exceed from my hand, I think I still would have had it. Well, ultimately, they ended up destroying my monster on board anyway, so that's fine. Oh yeah, I did see somebody ask what Parallel Exceed is used for. This is one of the reasons, or one of the uses. It's really just an extender. It's kind of like Mathmech Addition and Subtraction in that regard. Parallel Exceed is just good for getting... It's just good because not only does it provide additional like link materials, but you know, it also can act as exceed materials. Particularly, the Parallel Exceed can make it a lot easier with certain hands to go for the Alembertain on turn 1 if you want to do that, or not Alembertain, the Laplacian on turn 1. So yeah, it's a very solid extender in this deck because it not only sets up more link materials, but also it sets up an exceed summon pretty much by itself anyway. So yeah, that's about all I've got for this game and these games in general. So let's just go ahead and move on to the outro now. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation. You do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.